Close your eyes and take a gentle breath, letting the tensions of today simply drift away. For a little while, let us step out of the rush and the glare of screens, away from the endless to-do lists, and travel together to a place of profound calm. We are going on a journey not across miles but across millennia, to a time when one of the world's first great civilizations thrived in quiet harmony with the earth. This is an invitation to experience the peaceful life in the Indus Valley, a story crafted from the whispers of archaeologists and the threads of our shared human imagination, all designed to cradle your mind into a state of deep, restorative rest. Picture, if you will, a land cradled by mighty rivers, their waters flowing from the snowy peaks of the Himalayas down to a sun-warmed plain. This is the Indus Valley over 4,000 years ago. Unlike the tales of conquest and towering pyramids that define other ancient cultures, the story here is different. It is a story of remarkable order without grand palaces, of thriving trade without evidence of mighty armies, of a society that flourished for centuries in what appears to be a sustained and purposeful peace. As we wander through the quiet, moonlit streets of its cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, we find a mystery not of gold and glory, but of community and quiet efficiency. Tonight, you are not just a listener to history, you are a gentle observer, a quiet presence walking these ancient brick-laid pathways. You will feel the cool night air on your skin, see the starlight reflecting off sophisticated drainage channels, and sense the tranquility of a people who mastered their environment with ingenuity rather than force. There are no shouts of war here, only the soft sounds of a sleeping city. This story is a gift for your weary mind, a tranquil tapestry woven to ease you into a peaceful slumber. So find a comfortable position, release any lingering thoughts, and allow yourself to be carried back to the serene, starlit night of the Indus Valley, where a forgotten peace awaits to lull you into a deep and dreamless sleep. The first sensation is the sound, a low and constant whisper that seems to come from everywhere at once. It is the voice of the great river itself, the Indus, flowing with a slow, deliberate purpose. This sound is the heartbeat of the valley, a steady rhythm that has pulsed here for countless seasons, nurturing the land and the people who call it home. The air feels heavy and warm, carrying the rich, clean scent of water-soaked soil, a fragrance that speaks of growth and nourishment. Every so often, a gentle breeze drifts by, bringing with it the sweet, almost honeyed perfume of lotus blossoms blooming along the riverbanks, their wide petals closed for the night. Overhead, the moon hangs full and bright, its silvery light washing over the world below, softening every edge and casting long, deep shadows that hold their own quiet mysteries. Beneath this gentle light, the outlines of a sleeping city begin to take shape. You see the silhouettes of sturdy, mud brick homes, their walls smooth and thick, built to provide cool shelter from the daytime sun. The streets that wind between them are narrow and orderly, laid out in a careful grid that speaks of a community that planned with the future in mind. They are not empty but restful, with the day's energy now settled into a profound stillness. Here and there, a low window opening reveals the faint, dying embers of a household cooking fire, a tiny, warm glow in the vastness of the night. From one of these homes, you might catch the soft, regular breath of a family sleeping soundly inside, secure in the peace of their well-built world. The entire scene feels not abandoned but deeply at rest, as if the city itself is dreaming. This is the foundation of the Indus Valley's remarkable peace, a harmony between the people and their environment that begins with this very river, this very night. Let your attention drift towards one of these quiet homes, a typical dwelling in the heart of Mohenjo-daro. Its walls, built from uniform, sun-dried bricks, rise straight and true, their surface smooth to the touch from a coating of pale river clay. The roof above is flat, a private terrace open to the night sky, now bathed in moonlight. As you step inside through a wooden doorway, the change is immediate. The warmth of the night outside gives way to a cool, still darkness, a refuge carefully engineered by the thick earthen walls that hold the day's heat at bay. The only light comes from a single, small lamp, a simple dish of baked clay filled with nut oil with a twisted cotton wick floating at its center. Its flame is tiny, a steady, golden jewel that flickers and dances, causing the shadows on the smooth, plastered walls to sway in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Your eyes adjust to the soft glow, revealing a space defined by a serene and purposeful order. There are no piles of possessions, no chaotic corners. A few carefully made pottery vessels sit on a low ledge, their forms elegant and functional. In the main room, the family sleeps soundly. Some rest on charpoys, simple rope cots woven into a resilient web that lifts them gently off the packed earth floor, while others lie on thick, woven reed mats, comfortable and close. You can hear the soft, rhythmic pattern of their breathing, a quiet symphony of inhalation and exhalation that speaks of untroubled dreams and deep security. There is a profound peace here, a tangible feeling of safety that comes not from locked doors or guarded gates, but from the inherent stability of the society they have built. This simple, orderly home is a perfect reflection of the city itself, a private sanctuary within a much larger communal sanctuary, where every brick laid and every street planned was an act of faith in a peaceful tomorrow. And at the very center of this tranquil home lies its true heart, an open courtyard under the vast canopy of the night sky. This is not merely an architectural feature, but a philosophy made of brick and air, a deliberate invitation for the cosmos to enter the home. Stepping into this space, you feel a subtle shift, a gentle expansion. The enclosing walls fall away on one side, replaced by an unobstructed view of the stars, countless pinpricks of light shimmering in the deep velvet darkness. The air here feels different too, slightly cooler and carrying the distant, earthy scent of the river. It is a space designed for quiet contemplation, for gathering as a family, for feeling connected to the larger rhythms of the world. Your attention is drawn to a large, beautifully crafted ceramic jar standing in one corner of the courtyard. Its surface is glazed a deep, burnished terracotta, and it sits with a patient, grounded presence. This is the household's rainwater collector, a vital source of life. Listen closely and you can hear it. A single drop of water, condensed from the cool night air or falling from a recent shower, detaches itself from the roof's edge and descends. It lands in the jar with a soft, resonant plink, a note of pure, liquid clarity. A moment later, another follows, and then another, each drop contributing to a slow, unpredictable, and deeply soothing percussion that underscores the immense silence of the night. This is not a storm's drumming, but a gentle, metronomic trickle, a natural lullaby that seems to slow the very passage of time. Beside the jar, a potted tulsi plant, sacred basil, thrives in its simple clay container. Its leaves are small and vibrant green even in the moonlight, and as you move closer, it releases its fragrance. It is a scent both herbal and sweet, a clean, calming aroma that has been cherished for centuries for its ability to purify the air and quiet the mind. This subtle perfume mingles with the scent of damp earth from the courtyard floor, creating an atmosphere of serene sanctity. This private, open-air room is the ultimate expression of the Indus Valley's genius, a perfect blend of the practical and the spiritual. It demonstrates a profound understanding that true well-being comes from living in balance, where the boundaries between the shelter of the home and the freedom of the natural world are not walls but gentle, permeable transitions. This sanctuary of stillness found in every home echoes the greater peace of the city itself. A civilization that understood harmony was not just a concept, but something to be built, lived, and breathed every single day. Now, let us step out from the quiet privacy of the home and into the wider embrace of the community, onto one of the city's main thoroughfares. The transition is remarkable. Even under the soft veil of night, the intentional design of this place is immediately apparent. These are not winding, organic paths that grew over time, but wide, confidently straight avenues that speak of a society that valued foresight and collective agreement. They stretch out before you, ruler straight lines converging in the distance, their edges clean and defined. Under the brilliant moonlight, the entire street is cast in a monochrome of silver and deep blue shadow, an empty stage waiting for the sunrise. As you take a few steps forward, you feel the solid, reliable surface beneath your feet. The pavement is made of carefully fitted, kiln-baked bricks, each one uniform in size and shape, creating a remarkably even and stable walking surface. Even hours after the sun has set, these bricks retain a pleasant, soothing coolness, a sensation that seems to travel up from the soles of your feet and spread a feeling of calm stability throughout your body. There is no loose gravel, no mud, no unevenness to trip a nighttime wanderer. This careful attention to the ground beneath one's feet is a quiet promise of the city's overall character, a promise of order and care that extends to every aspect of life. Glancing down towards the edges of the street, you notice another stroke of genius, one that truly sets this civilization apart. Running parallel to the road, almost hidden in the shadows, are deep, covered drainage channels. They are masterpieces of practical engineering, constructed with the same precision as the streets themselves. Each channel is lined with more of those sturdy baked bricks and topped with large, flat stone slabs that form a secure lid. This simple yet revolutionary system kept the city clean and healthy, channeling rainwater and waste away from the homes and into larger civic drains, all out of sight and out of mind. What is most striking about this advanced infrastructure is its silence and its subtlety. There is no noisy machinery, no obtrusive construction. It simply exists as an integral, almost invisible part of the urban landscape, functioning perfectly without demanding any attention. Unlike the roaring, exposed gutters of later ages, these drains are serene. If you were to kneel and place your ear close to one of the stone covers, you might hear the faintest, most distant trickle of water, a whisper of movement that only emphasizes the profound quiet of the night. This is engineering in service of peace, a technology designed not for conquest or spectacle, but for the dignified well-being of every single citizen. It reflects a profound understanding that public health is the foundation of a stable society, and that such foundations are best laid quietly with meticulous care, ensuring the tranquility of the community remains undisturbed. Following the straight and silent avenue, a gradual sense of anticipation builds, a feeling of approaching a place of singular importance. The residential lanes give way to a more open space, and there, ahead, rests the most profound mystery of Mohenjo-daro, the Great Bath. It rises from the flat plain of the city not as a towering monument, but as a vast, sunken rectangle of perfect geometry, an artificial lake of stillness built by human hands. The entire structure is made of finely fitted bricks, sealed with a layer of bitumen, a natural tar, to make it perfectly watertight. It is a testament to a communal will, a project that required the coordinated effort of an entire society, not for defense or for a ruler's glory, but for a purpose that feels both spiritual and deeply practical. Under the moon's gaze, the bath is breathtaking. Its water is absolutely still, having settled into a profound calm after the day's use. The surface is a flawless black mirror, so clear and undisturbed that it seems not to hold a reflection, but to contain a second, deeper sky. The moon and the scattered stars are captured perfectly within it, their silver light doubled, creating the illusion that you are standing at the precipice between two universes, one above and one below. The boundary between the earthly and the celestial feels beautifully, delicately blurred. The colonnades and small rooms that surround the central tank stand in silent vigil. Their rectangular pillars cast long, precise shadows that stripe the paved courtyard, a pattern of light and dark that adds to the site's serene formality. A sacred hush blankets this entire area, a quality of silence that feels different from the quiet of the sleeping homes. This is not the silence of absence, but of reverence. It is a silence that has been cultivated, a space where ordinary sounds feel like an intrusion. The air itself seems thicker, charged with a gentle, resonant energy accumulated over centuries of peaceful gathering. You can almost feel the echoes of bare feet moving softly across the bricks, of quiet conversations, of the focused intention of those who came here not for frantic ritual, but for purification and calm. Move closer to the water's edge, to the series of steps that lead down into the tank. They are wide and shallow, designed for a slow, deliberate descent. And here, the only sound emerges, a sound that encapsulates the entire peaceful essence of this place. It is the gentle, rhythmic lapping of water against the baked clay steps. As a faint night breeze whispers across the vast surface of the bath, it pushes tiny, almost imperceptible wavelets towards the sides. Each one meets the stairs with a soft, liquid kiss, a quiet shush that is the only punctuation in the overwhelming quiet. This sound is not a disturbance, it is a lullaby. It is a sound that has soothed the inhabitants of this city for generations, a constant, calming rhythm that speaks of continuity and care. To stand here is to understand that this was not just a pool for bathing, but the true heart of the city, a place where the community reaffirmed its connection to the element of water, to cleanliness, and to a shared sense of spiritual well-being. It is the ultimate expression of the Indus Valley's peace, a peace built not on power, but on a collective reverence for harmony, stillness, and the simple, profound act of cleansing both the body and the spirit. From the serene spirituality of the Great Bath, the city's layout guides you towards another kind of heart, one that beats with a more earthly yet equally vital rhythm. A short walk along another broad avenue leads to a complex of buildings that are somehow even more massive, their scale speaking not to the divine but to the brilliantly practical. These are the granaries, the great storehouses of the city's prosperity, and they stand silent and imposing under the night sky, immense platforms of brick that seem to absorb the moonlight rather than reflect it. Their presence is a quiet declaration of the civilization's greatest achievement, the conquest of scarcity. These are not simply sheds or barns, they are feats of logistical genius. You see a series of large, raised platforms, their floors cleverly elevated on rows of sturdy brick pillars. This design creates a continuous flow of air beneath the stored grain, a natural cooling system that prevents rot and keeps pests at bay. The walls are punctuated with numerous narrow slots, ventilation ducts that allow the dry night air to circulate constantly through the vast stores of barley and wheat within. As you approach, you are met with a sensation that is as comforting as it is ancient. From these ducts emanates a faint, dry, and sweet fragrance, the unmistakable smell of abundance. It is the aroma of threshed grain, a wholesome, earthy scent that carries the essence of sunshine, fertile soil, and the promise of a full belly. It is the smell of security itself. Consider the profound peace that such a structure would bring to a community. In a world where a single failed harvest could mean hunger, displacement, or even conflict, these granaries were a revolutionary act of foresight. They were the city's collective insurance policy, a physical manifestation of a shared agreement to look after one another. The harvest from the fertile river plains would be gathered and stored here, not for a privileged few, but for the entire population. This system meant that a craftsman weaving cloth, a potter firing vessels, or an engineer designing drains did not need to also be a full-time farmer to survive. It allowed for the specialization of labor, the very engine of advanced civilization, to occur without the constant, gnawing fear of famine. This guaranteed abundance freed the citizens to pursue art, technology, and community life, creating a stability that was the bedrock upon which their centuries of peace were built. The granaries, therefore, were not just warehouses for food, they were warehouses for trust, ensuring that the social contract remained strong season after season. Standing here in the quiet, you can almost feel the collective sigh of relief that this place must have represented. The fear of want is one of the most primal anxieties, a disruptor of peace in any age. But here, that fear was systematically engineered away. The sheer scale of these buildings communicates a powerful, unspoken message to every citizen: you are safe. Your children will be fed, the community will provide. This foundational layer of material security allowed for a culture where cooperation could flourish over competition, where long-term planning could replace short-term survival. The quiet order of the streets, the advanced sanitation, the time for spiritual reflection at the Great Bath, none of it would have been possible without the quiet assurance emanating from these vast, silent storehouses. They are a testament to a society that understood the deepest roots of peace are not found in weapons or walls, but in the simple, profound guarantee that no one will go hungry. Leaving the monumental granaries behind, the path narrows slightly, leading into a district where the day's energy still seems to linger in the very bricks. These are the workshops of the artisans, the places where the raw materials of the earth were transformed into objects of both utility and stunning beauty. By night, they are hushed and still, but the evidence of the day's vibrant activity is everywhere, a silent testament to a society that held craftsmanship in the highest regard. There are no grand palaces filled with plundered treasure here. Instead, the city's true wealth is displayed in the skill of its hands and the artistry of its everyday objects. Step into a potter's workshop, the air still carrying the faint, clean scent of wet clay. The potter's wheel, a simple but revolutionary device made of stone and wood, sits motionless at the center of the space. Around it, the floor is a mosaic of dried clay droplets and fine, pale dust. Along the walls, rows of newly formed pots and bowls stand in neat lines, left to dry slowly and evenly in the cool, dry night air. They are in various stages of completion. Some are simple, unfired terracotta, their surfaces rough and porous. Others have already been painted with elegant, geometric patterns in deep black or rich red ochre. Their designs featuring intricate spirals, intersecting circles, and careful pipal leaf motifs that speak of a shared cultural language. These are not crude containers. Each one is a unique expression of balance and form, designed to feel good in the hand, to pour smoothly, to serve a purpose with grace. The peace here is the deep satisfaction of creation, the quiet pride of making something both useful and beautiful. A satisfaction that must have filled this space at the end of every working day. A few doors down, in a smaller, more enclosed stall, an even more delicate magic was practiced. This is the domain of the bead maker. On a low wooden bench, a leather cloth is spread out, and upon it rests a king's ransom in miniature. Tiny, unfinished beads of carnelian, a deep orange-red stone, catch the moonlight and glow with a warm inner fire. Beside them are beads of pale, creamy steatite, which would later be fired to a brilliant, enduring white, and even a few rare, deep blue lapis lazuli beads, treasured stones that journeyed from distant mountains. The tools are laid out with care, fine drills made of hardened copper, abrasive sands for polishing, and lengths of delicate thread. Look closely at these tiny treasures. Some are simple spheres, but others are incredibly elaborate, long, barrel-shaped beads or discs so thin they seem translucent. The carnelian beads, especially, reveal an almost unbelievable level of skill. Many have been drilled through their entire length, a process that required immense patience and a steady hand, using a bow-driven drill and an abrasive powder harder than the stone itself. To accomplish this without shattering the bead is a feat that still astounds archaeologists. In the stillness of the night, these unfinished beads rest like captured starlight, each one a promise of future adornment. They were not made for a solitary ruler, but for the people, men, women, and children who appreciated beauty and wore it as part of their daily lives. This quiet workshop hums with the memory of intense, focused concentration, a different kind of peace that comes from mastering a difficult skill and creating something of exquisite delicacy. The existence of such specialized, highly skilled artisans points to a remarkably sophisticated economic and social structure. A bead maker or a seal carver did not grow their own food. They relied on the surplus from the granaries, trading their exquisite creations for the necessities of life. This system of interdependence fostered a different kind of value, one based on talent and artistry rather than sheer force. The peace that permeates these workshops is not merely the absence of noise, it is the positive presence of creative fulfillment. It is the peace of a society that had moved beyond the struggle for basic survival and could invest its energy into cultivating beauty, order, and skill. In the silence of the night, you can almost hear the echo of a society's choice to value the potter's wheel and the bead drill as highly as any other tool, understanding that a civilization's soul is reflected not just in its monuments, but in the beauty of its everyday objects. The path now leads you away from the hushed workshops and into a vast, open square at the very center of the city's daily life. By day, this would have been the bustling, vibrant heart of Mohenjo-daro, a marketplace teeming with activity. But under the blanket of night, it is a landscape of profound and eloquent silence. The emptiness is not barren, but pregnant with the memory of commerce and community. Long, low platforms of brick, which served as stalls for merchants, line the square in orderly rows, their surfaces worn smooth by the passage of countless feet and the weight of countless goods. They stand like silent stages, waiting for the morning's performance to begin once more. Everything here speaks of a system built on predictability and fairness. On one of these platforms, a set of stone weights has been left for the night, neatly arranged in a graduated series from small to large. They are not rough, haphazard stones, but carefully shaped cubes and spheres, each one polished to a precise mass. Nearby, a series of finely carved ivory scales rests beside them, their beams perfectly balanced. This meticulous standardization was the silent engine of the economy. A merchant from the distant coast selling shells, a farmer bringing baskets of dates, a weaver offering bolts of fine cotton, they all used the same weights and measures. There was no need for loud haggling or suspicion of being cheated. The transaction was simple, transparent, and rooted in a mutual trust that was woven into the very fabric of the city. The stress and conflict that often accompanies trade in other times and places were simply engineered away here, replaced by a calm, procedural certainty. Let your senses reach back through time to conjure the ghostly bouquet that would have filled this square just hours ago. The air, now clean and still, would have carried a rich tapestry of scents. The nutty, earthy aroma of sesame oil, pressed from local seeds and used for both cooking and lamps, would have been a constant base note. Cutting through it would have been the sharp, warm perfume of spices, mustard seed, cumin, and perhaps even turmeric, their vibrant colors matched by their pungent fragrance. And weaving through it all, a cleaner, softer smell, the scent of fresh, undyed cotton brought in from the fields in great, fluffy bales, waiting to be spun into thread and woven into the comfortable clothing that these people wore. These are not the aggressive smells of a frantic bazaar, but the wholesome, productive aromas of a society trading in the genuine fruits of its labor. This entire system operated without a single coin. The economy was not based on precious metal but on something far more valuable, a network of mutual obligation and trusted value. A potter might trade a set of fine bowls to a farmer for a portion of grain. The bead maker might exchange a necklace for a quantity of oil or woven cloth. This was a world of barter, but elevated to a high art by the shared standards and the inherent trust between craftspeople. The most fascinating artifacts that facilitated this were the small, square soapstone seals found throughout the Indus Valley. Often carved with images of animals like the powerful unicorn-like creature or the serene humped bull, and bearing cryptic symbols of a script we still cannot read. These seals were likely pressed into soft clay to mark ownership, authenticate goods, or sign contracts. They were a person's signature, their brand, their guarantee of quality. The presence of these seals from one end of the vast Indus realm to the other suggests a commercial network so stable and trustworthy that a merchant in the distant city of Harappa could have confidence in a shipment marked with a seal from Mohenjo-daro. This created a remarkable kind of peace, one that resonates deeply with our modern anxieties about commerce. Imagine a life without the constant background noise of financial negotiation, without the fear of being swindled in a deal, without the pressure of fluctuating currencies. The economic life of the Indus Valley was stripped of these stressors. The market square, now so quiet, was a place where people met as equals in a system designed for fairness. The success of a trade depended on the quality of one's goods and the integrity of one's word, not on one's ability to argue or deceive. This fostered a profound sense of communal trust that extended far beyond the marketplace, reinforcing the stability of the entire society. To stand here in the moonlight is to witness the foundations of a commerce that served the community rather than challenging it. A system where economic exchange was not a source of conflict but another thread in the strong, peaceful tapestry of daily life. And so, as the moon continues its slow journey across the heavens, we come to the deepest mystery of all, the people themselves. They are the silent heart of this silent city, their individual lives shrouded in a veil of time that even the most brilliant archaeology cannot fully lift. We know their achievements, the bricks they laid, the beads they drilled, the grains they stored, but the sound of their voices, the content of their conversations, the names they gave their children, all of this is lost. Their script, a beautiful and complex system of symbols found on thousands of those small stone seals, remains stubbornly undeciphered, a locked door to their inner world. It is perhaps this very silence that allows us to perceive their civilization as so profoundly peaceful, for we cannot hear their arguments or their laments, only see the remarkable stability they built together. We can, however, look at the physical evidence of their lives and draw some powerful conclusions. The skeletal remains found in Indus Valley cemeteries tell a story quite different from those of other contemporary civilizations. There is a notable absence of the telltale signs of violent trauma, the shattered skulls and arrowheads embedded in bone that speak of constant warfare. Instead, the bones speak of long, healthy lives, of people who suffered from the ailments of age and hard work, but not from the organized violence of man against man. They were generally well-nourished, their teeth showing the wear of a diet rich in grains, a testament to the success of their agricultural and storage systems. They were a people who lived in harmony with their environment and seemingly with each other. Imagine them now not as abstract historical figures, but as individuals resting in their cool, dark homes. Here sleeps a potter, his hands still faintly dusted with clay from the day's work, now resting peacefully at his sides. The muscles in his forearms are strong from years of centering clay on the wheel, but his face in sleep is smooth, untroubled. In another house, a farmer dreams of the next season's planting, the scent of the rich soil still a comfort in his memory. A trader, her mind once filled with the calculations of weights and the value of lapis lazuli, now breathes the slow, even breath of deep rest, her worries quieted by the certainty of the economic system she operates within. And in a smaller room, a child sleeps, a carefully carved terracotta toy animal tucked safely beside her mat. What did they dream about? Did the farmer dream of the river's life-giving flood? Did the beadmaker dream of perfecting a new, intricate design? Did the child dream of playing in the empty, moonlit streets we now walk? Their dreams are their own, forever private. This is the gift and the challenge of the Indus Valley. Because we cannot read their words, we are free to project onto them a universal, almost idealized peace. We see a society that mastered urban planning without evidence of a tyrannical ruler, that engaged in vast trade networks without leaving signs of aggressive colonial outposts, and that flourished for nearly 1,000 years without building massive fortifications or glorifying warriors in their art. This enduring mystery invites us to consider a different path for humanity, one where community and cooperation were valued above individual power and conquest. Their silence becomes a canvas upon which we can paint our own deepest yearning for a life free from the pervasive stresses of conflict and insecurity. As we prepare to leave this starlit city, the profound tranquility of its sleeping citizens begins to merge with your own need for rest. Their long-forgotten peace, built brick by brick and sealed in the quiet of millennia, now settles over you, a gentle, heavy blanket of stillness, easing the thoughts from your mind and guiding you gently toward the same deep and dreamless sleep they themselves enjoyed so many centuries ago. A gentle, warm breeze rustles the leaves of the pipal and neem trees planted throughout the city, their branches creating shifting patterns of shadow and silver light on the ground below. This is not a wild, untamed wind, but a cultivated breath of air channeled along the straight avenues and welcomed into the open courtyards of the homes. The trees themselves are a testament to the city planners' foresight, their roots helping to stabilize the earth and their broad canopies offering precious shade from the daytime sun. Now at night, their presence adds another layer of life to the sleeping city, a soft, rustling whisper that companions the steady sound of the river. And on this breeze rides another sound, a deep, resonant tone that seems to originate from the very edges of perception. It is the distant, lowing of a zebu cow from the pastures beyond the city walls, a soft, comforting call that travels across the open fields and slips through the unguarded gateways. This single, mournful sound is a thread connecting the sophisticated urban world you have been walking through to the ancient, rhythmic life of the land that makes it all possible. It is a reminder that this city of brick and order did not exist in isolation. It was the vibrant heart of a much larger body, its lifeblood flowing from the fertile fields that stretched to the horizon. The people sleeping in these homes understood this connection intimately. The farmer who tended those zebu cattle, the potter who relied on the farmer's grain, the engineer who designed the drains that kept the city healthy, they all knew that their security, their peace, was rooted in the soil. That soft lowing is a lullaby of sustenance, a sound that would have been as familiar and reassuring to a child in Mohenjo-daro as the sound of a passing car might be to a child today. It signified abundance, stability, and the continuous cyclical promise of the land. Follow the sound in your mind's eye, past the last orderly row of houses, beyond the sturdy, defensive-looking walls that were likely designed more for managing trade and containing floods than for repelling armies, and out into the open darkness of the countryside. Here, under the same immense sky, the world changes. The sharp, geometric lines of the city give way to the soft, organic contours of the land. The air smells different, richer, with the scent of damp earth, ripening barley, and the sweet aroma of clover. The zebu cattle, those majestic animals with their great humps and long, drooping ears, rest in enclosed pastures, their dark forms like small, gentle hills in the moonlight. Some lie down, chewing their cud with a slow, meditative rhythm, while others stand quietly, their tails occasionally swishing at a night insect. They are not anxious or restless, but content, their well-being a direct reflection of the care provided by the community they sustain. This seamless integration of urban and rural life is another cornerstone of the Indus Valley's enduring peace. There was no sharp division, no fortified barrier of suspicion between the city dweller and the farmer. They were part of the same interconnected system, each relying on the other's labor and skill. The city provided the farmer with finely made tools, sturdy pottery for storage, and access to a wide market for his goods. In return, the countryside provided the grain that filled the granaries, the cotton for the weavers, the milk and meat from the zebu herds. This relationship was not one of exploitation, but of symbiosis, a mutually beneficial exchange that fostered a deep sense of shared destiny. The gentle mooing of the cattle is not an intrusion upon the city's silence. It is its foundational chorus, a natural metronome marking the slow, reliable passage of agricultural time upon which all of the city's sophisticated achievements were built. It is the sound of the contract between humanity and the earth, a contract that here in the Indus Valley was honored for centuries, creating a peace so profound it still whispers to us across the ages. Beyond the city walls, the geometric order gives way to a different kind of harmony, one written in the soft curves of the land and the rhythmic patterns of cultivation. The farms of the Indus Valley stretch out under the immense star-filled sky, a vast, sleeping quilt of fields that provided the literal sustenance for the civilization's remarkable achievements. Here, the peace is not one of human design alone, but a profound, ancient tranquility born from a successful partnership with the earth itself. The moonlight, so bright on the city's bricks, here falls softly upon the feathery heads of barley and the sturdy stalks of wheat, casting long, shifting shadows as a gentle night breeze moves through them. It creates a sound like a slow, whispered conversation, the rustling of countless dry leaves and stalks that blends with the ever-present murmur of the great river. This agricultural abundance was not left to chance. It was the result of one of the Indus Valley's most brilliant and subtle innovations. Look closer, and you can see the silver threads of water glinting in the moonlight, tracing straight, purposeful lines through the dark soil. These are the canals, a network of irrigation channels engineered with incredible skill and foresight. They are not ragged ditches, but carefully constructed waterways, their banks reinforced with clay and brick to prevent erosion. They slope with a precise, gentle gradient, a calculation made without modern tools, designed to guide the life-giving water from the main river channels out to the farthest fields with a steady, reliable flow. By day, farmers would have managed these flows with simple but effective wooden gates, but now at night the system works on its own, a silent, self-regulating testament to human ingenuity working in concert with natural forces. The genius of this system lies in its understanding of balance. The Indus people were master hydrologists. They knew that a river could both give and take away. Their canals were designed not just to water crops but to manage the annual floods, to distribute the silt that renewed the soil's fertility, and to prevent the waterlogging and salt buildup that could turn fertile land barren. This was agriculture practiced with a long-term perspective, a commitment to working with the rhythms of the river rather than fighting against them or exploiting the land to exhaustion. The peace that rests over these fields is the peace of sustainability, the deep, quiet confidence that comes from knowing the land will continue to provide for your children and your children's children. It is the opposite of the anxious scramble of short-term gain, and what grew in this carefully tended earth, the staples of their diet swayed gently in the night air. There is wheat, its full heads heavy with grain, and barley, a more resilient crop that could thrive in varying conditions. You can see the delicate tendrils of pea plants, their pods fattening in the cool darkness, and the distinctive sesame plants with their oily seeds. In small, enclosed garden plots closer to the farmsteads, there would have been patches of dates, their sweet fruit a valuable source of energy, and perhaps even early forms of cotton, its fluffy bolls not yet ready for harvest. This was a diverse and nutritious agriculture, a testament to a deep botanical knowledge passed down through generations. The farmers of the Indus Valley were not merely planters, they were keen observers of the natural world, selectively breeding crops for better yield and taste, understanding crop rotation long before it was a formalized science. The silence of the night is broken only by the natural sounds of this cultivated landscape. The buzzing of nocturnal insects is a constant, soft hum, a sound that speaks of a healthy, thriving ecosystem. Every so often, the call of a night bird echoes from a cluster of trees planted as a windbreak, and if you listen very closely, you can hear the water itself. In the main canals, it moves with a quiet, purposeful gurgle, but in the smallest channels that run along the rows of plants, it is nearly silent, a slow seepage that nourishes the roots directly. This is the sound of life being sustained, the most fundamental music of any civilization. This symbiotic relationship with nature extended beyond the fields to the very layout of the land. The farmsteads themselves are simple, functional structures made of the same mud brick as the city homes, but they are surrounded by yards where the zebu cattle are sheltered. The smell here is a comforting blend of hay, animal musk, and wood smoke from a recently banked fire. The farmers who sleep inside are as much a part of the city's life as the bead maker or the priest. Their success guaranteed the surplus that filled the granaries, which in turn allowed for the specialization of labor that made the urban marvels possible. There was no wall of separation between the food producer and the city dweller. They were two halves of a single, integrated organism. To stand here in the moonlight between the sleeping city and the sleeping fields is to understand that the peace of the Indus Valley was not an accident. It was a conscious, hard-won achievement built on a foundation of agricultural wisdom and a profound respect for the earth that provided their daily bread. A partnership so successful it created a stability that lasted for 1,000 years. From the quiet order of the farms, the land itself seems to guide your steps downward toward the source of all this life, the great murmuring artery of the valley. The gentle slope leads you to the river's edge, a place where the solidity of the earth meets the constant, flowing presence of the water. Here, the atmosphere shifts once more. The air is cooler, carrying a fresh, clean dampness, and the sound that has been a distant whisper throughout the city now swells into a full, resonant chorus. It is the sound of the Indus River itself, a deep, low rumble of moving water that is less a noise and more a physical sensation, a vibration you can feel through the soles of your feet, a rhythm that seems to synchronize with your own heartbeat. Lined up along the muddy bank, a fleet of small, elegant fishing boats rests for the night. They are not crude dugout canoes, but carefully crafted vessels, their hulls made of woven reeds and wood, sealed with tar to make them watertight. They sit half in, half out of the water, each one tethered to a stout post with a coil of rough, sturdy rope. The boats rock with a gentle, almost imperceptible motion, a lazy sway dictated by the river's subtle currents. It is a slow, rocking rhythm, a natural lullaby that speaks of rest and security after a day's work. With each gentle nudge against the bank, there is a soft, liquid sound, a quiet bump and slosh that blends seamlessly into the river's greater song. Above the boats, draped over wooden frames or hanging from the low branches of riverside trees, are the fishermen's nets. They are intricate webs of woven plant fiber, complex and beautiful in their own right. By moonlight, they look like giant, ghostly cobwebs, their diamond-shaped patterns creating delicate shadows on the ground. They hang heavy with the scent of the river and the memory of the day's catch, a faint, clean, fishy aroma that is not unpleasant but rather wholesome, the smell of honest labor and provision. A slight breeze moves through them, causing the nets to sway gently, their damp threads occasionally glistening like strands of silver. This is a place of purposeful pause, where the tools of livelihood are put to rest, maintained with care, and made ready for the dawn. Consider the role of this river not just as a source of water, but as the region's natural highway. While the city's streets were marvels of human planning, the river was a road laid down by nature itself, a wide, flowing avenue that connected Mohenjo-daro to a world far beyond its walls. Upstream and downstream, and eventually out to the Arabian Sea, this waterway was a conduit for ideas, materials, and people. Yet, unlike the frantic, noisy ports of later eras, this riverbank exudes a profound calm. It was a highway that demanded a different pace. Travel and trade moved with the rhythm of the current and the patience of the sail, not the frantic haste of wheels and hooves. The river connected communities, but it did not divide them. It was a shared resource, a common thread that bound the civilization together in a network of mutual dependence. The goods that arrived here, the precious lapis lazuli from the north, the conch shells from the distant coast, did not come with the clamor of conquest, but with the quiet assurance of established, peaceful exchange. Standing on this bank, you understand that this was a civilization comfortable with flow, with connection, with the slow, reliable pace of a river that had given them everything and asked for nothing but respect in return. Let us turn our thoughts now to the most cherished part of any community, its children. In the quiet homes we have passed, small figures sleep deeply, their rest as untroubled as the city around them. These boys and girls of the Indus Valley knew a childhood that was, in many ways, a reflection of their civilization itself, secure, creative, and intimately connected to the rhythms of daily life. The artifacts they left behind tell a story not of elaborate royal tutelage, but of the universal joys of play. Archaeologists have uncovered tiny terracotta carts, complete with solid wheels and a small hole for a pull string, little replicas of the carts that rumbled through the city's streets bringing goods to the market. There are carefully modeled clay animals, 2 zebu bulls with their great humps, monkeys and squirrels, each one shaped by a loving adult's hand or perhaps by the child themselves, their surfaces smoothed by hours of imaginative play. Picture one of these children now, a young boy fast asleep on a woven mat. His breathing is deep and even. Curled beside him within easy reach is his favorite toy, a small, baked clay bird, its simple form worn smooth from being clutched and carried throughout the day. His hands, though small, already show the potential for the skills his society values. Perhaps one day they will shape pots on a wheel or carve intricate seals from soapstone. But for now, their only work is play, the serious business of learning about the world through imitation and imagination. In his dreams, he might be driving his clay cart on a great adventure down the main avenue, or his toy bull might be the mightiest in the herd. His world, though vast in its own way, was bounded by a profound sense of safety. The walls of his home were strong, the grain stores were full, and the sounds of the night were the gentle lapping at the great bath and the distant lowing of cattle, not the alarms of conflict. This security was not an accident but the direct result of the society he was born into. From their earliest moments, these children were immersed in an environment of predictable order. The streets outside were laid out in a clear, navigable grid. They could run and play without fear of getting hopelessly lost. The people they encountered, the potter, the bead maker, the farmer, were all known members of a stable community, their roles understood and respected. There were no tales of invading armies to haunt their dreams, no legends of warrior kings to be emulated through violent play. Instead, the heroes of their stories were likely the builders of the great drains, the captains of the river boats, or the artisans whose skilled hands created beauty from clay and stone. This fostered a deep-seated, almost unconscious trust in their surroundings. A child falling asleep in Mohenjo-daro did so with the unshakable belief that the sun would rise on the same orderly world, that their family would be safe, and that their community would provide. This predictable world offered a different kind of freedom, one rooted in security rather than uncertainty. A child could focus on the immediate wonders of their environment, the way clay felt between their fingers, the fascination of watching a potter's wheel spin, the thrill of seeing a merchant's boat arrive at the riverbank with exotic shells from a distant shore. Their education was not confined to a schoolroom but was woven into the fabric of daily life, learned by watching their parents and neighbors practice crafts that had been perfected over generations. This continuity, this sense of being part of an unbroken chain, gave them a firm foundation. They were not being prepared for a world of disruptive change, but for a life of meaningful contribution to a society that was built to last. The gentle, rhythmic sounds that lulled them to sleep were the same sounds that had lulled their parents and grandparents, a soothing chorus of continuity that whispered a simple, powerful promise. You are home, you are safe, you belong. This remarkable sense of shared security, felt by both the sleeping child and the resting artisan, points to one of the most defining and mysterious characteristics of the Indus Valley civilization, its profoundly egalitarian nature. As you walk through the moonlit streets, this becomes increasingly apparent. Unlike the ruins of ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, where the landscape is dominated by the overwhelming pyramids of pharaohs or the towering ziggurats dedicated to god-kings, the skyline of Mohenjo-daro is strikingly uniform. There are no colossal monuments celebrating a single ruler, no grand palaces set high on a hill to look down upon the common people. Instead, the city presents a community of equals, at least in terms of material wealth and living standards. Look at the homes themselves. While some houses are slightly larger than others, perhaps accommodating extended families, the difference is one of degree, not of kind. There are no sprawling, opulent mansions standing next to cramped, squalid hovels. Every family, it seems, enjoyed access to the same fundamental comforts: sturdy, well-built brick walls, a reliable source of clean water from a courtyard well or a public facility, and the benefit of that sophisticated, city-wide drainage system that served every neighborhood equally. The artifacts found within these homes tell a similar story. Fine pottery, elegant beads, and intricate seals are not concentrated in one privileged district but are scattered throughout the city, suggesting that the appreciation for beauty and the means to acquire such objects were widespread. This uniformity in housing and possessions suggests a society where wealth was distributed relatively evenly, and where the gap between the most and least fortunate was not a chasm of despair but a gentle slope. This lack of extreme hierarchy likely created a social environment with far less inherent tension. In societies dominated by a powerful elite, a great deal of human energy is expended on climbing the social ladder, on currying favor with those in power, or on protecting one's position from rivals. This constant competition can be a source of immense stress, conflict, and instability. But in the Indus Valley, that energy appears to have been channeled elsewhere into communal projects that benefited all. The labor required to build the Great Bath, the Granaries, and the grid of streets was monumental, yet there is no evidence of slave quarters or mass graves of forced laborers. This suggests a society where people contributed to these grand projects willingly, understanding that they served the common good. The peace that permeates this city, therefore, was not merely the absence of war, it was the positive presence of social cooperation. It was a peace woven into the very fabric of their social structure, a community where most individuals felt they had a valued place and a shared stake in the collective well-being. The authority that governed this society remains one of its greatest puzzles. There must have been leaders, planners, and organizers of immense skill to coordinate such a complex urban environment. Yet, we find no royal tombs filled with treasure, no inscriptions boasting of a ruler's conquests or decrees. This suggests that their leaders were not autocrats who ruled by divine right or military might, but perhaps more like administrators or respected elders, individuals whose authority was derived from their competence, their wisdom, or their service to the community. They may have been the engineers who designed the water systems, the priests who oversaw the rituals at the Great Bath, or the merchants who managed long-distance trade. Their power was likely situational and consensual, focused on maintaining the system that worked for everyone rather than on accumulating personal wealth and glory. This form of governance, where leadership is a responsibility rather than a privilege, fosters a deep and resilient kind of stability. It is the peace of a society that is managed rather than ruled, where the social contract is strong because it is perceived as fair. As the moon begins its slow descent, the sky above the Indus Valley deepens from a soft, silvery blue into a vast, velvety black, revealing its true treasure. Without a single speck of artificial light to compete, the cosmos unveils itself in a glory we can scarcely imagine today. It is not merely a scattering of stars, it is a thick, luminous river of dust and fire, a breathtaking tapestry so dense and bright that it seems to hum with a silent, celestial energy. For the people sleeping below, this was not a remote mystery but a familiar, intimate part of their world, a grand clockwork mechanism they observed with a keen and practical eye. Their lives were governed by the rhythms of the sun and the moon, but their deeper understanding came from tracking the steady, predictable journeys of the stars and planets. They were astronomers in the truest sense, not as a specialized elite, but as a people whose survival depended on reading the sky. The annual flooding of the Indus was not a random event of terror, but a phenomenon tied to the seasons, which were themselves dictated by the Earth's position relative to the sun and the constellations. By observing the heliacal rising of certain stars, the first appearance of a star just before dawn after a period of invisibility, they could predict the coming of the monsoon rains and the life-giving flood of the river with remarkable accuracy. This knowledge was power, the power to plant at the perfect time, to harvest before the waters rose, and to plan their civic life around the assured cycles of nature. This celestial observation was likely woven into the very architecture of their cities. While we have no towering observatories like Stonehenge, the careful cardinal alignment of their streets, so precisely north-south and east-west, suggests a sophisticated understanding of solar movements. The main avenues may have been designed to catch the first and last rays of the solstice sun, bathing the city in symbolic light on the longest and shortest days of the year. Certain buildings or platforms, perhaps even the Great Bath itself, might have served as viewing points for priests or elders to track the progress of the moon or the wandering paths of planets like Venus and Jupiter, which shone with a particular brilliance in their pristine sky. Theirs was a cosmos of order, not chaos, where the movements of celestial bodies were as reliable and understandable as the flow of water in their canals. This understanding fostered a profound cosmological peace, a sense of their place within a vast, harmonious system. They did not see themselves as subjects of capricious gods who demanded constant appeasement, but as participants in a grand, predictable order that extended from the irrigation channels in their fields to the pathways of the stars. The universe was not a hostile place. It was a magnificent, intelligible creation of which they were an integral part. This perspective is reflected in their art, which avoids scenes of battle or domination and focuses instead on serene animals, meditative figures, and symbols of natural fertility. The peace they built on earth was in their minds a reflection of the peace they observed in the heavens above. To lie under this immense, star-filled dome was to feel both incredibly small and profoundly connected, a tiny part of a magnificent whole that moved with a graceful, unassailable logic, a silent symphony that promised the dawn and the seasons would always return. Returning to the peaceful streets, let us appreciate the city's hidden symphony, a composition of quietness made possible by its most humble innovation. We have already admired the covered drains as a marvel of engineering, but now experience them as the guardians of an auditory peace that is almost unimaginable for an ancient city. In most settlements of this era, the streets would have been filled with the unpleasant sounds and smells of waste, the buzzing of flies, the gurgle of open sewers, the inevitable odors of decay. Here there is none of that. The ingenious system of brick-lined channels hidden beneath sturdy stone slabs performs its vital work in near total silence. If you kneel and listen intently, you might perceive the faintest, most distant trickle of water, a sound so soft it serves only to accentuate the profound stillness it maintains. This quiet flow was not merely a matter of comfort, it was a fundamental pillar of public health that shaped the very atmosphere of the city. By preventing stagnation, these drains eliminated the breeding grounds for the insects and pathogens that plagued other ancient populations. The air, therefore, remains clean and fresh, carrying only the scents of the night, the damp earth, the blooming lotus, the faint aroma of wood smoke from banked hearths. There is no foul smell to offend the senses, no visible nuisance to remind the citizens of disease. This created an environment where children could play safely in the streets and families could sleep with their windows open to the cool night air without fear of miasma or pestilence. The peace of mind that comes from such cleanliness cannot be overstated. It meant less sickness, fewer lives lost to preventable causes, and a community that could thrive in a state of physical well-being. This attention to public health reflects a profound collective value, a shared priority for the common good that permeated every level of society. The resources and coordinated labor required to build and maintain this network of drains, serving every neighborhood without distinction, signify a social contract of remarkable strength. It reveals a civilization that understood a simple, powerful truth: the health of one is connected to the health of all. A disease festering in a neglected corner could spread to the richest merchant and the most skilled artisan. By investing in this invisible infrastructure, they were investing in each other, creating a buffer against the fear and disruption that illness brings. This shared commitment to a clean environment fostered a deep-seated sense of security, allowing the people to direct their energies toward creation and community rather than constantly battling the threats of their own environment. The gentle, almost inaudible flow of water beneath their feet was a constant, reassuring whisper of that collective care, a sound that underpinned the city's remarkable tranquility. This immersion in the process of making was a form of active meditation long before the term became common. For the bead driller, the world narrowed to the point of a copper drill and the tiny, precious sphere of carnelian held firmly in a vise of wood. There was no room for distraction, for a wandering mind meant a shattered bead and hours of labor lost. The focus required was absolute, a silent conversation between the craftsman's breath, the steady pressure of his hands, and the faint, high-pitched whine of the drill bit as it met the abrasive powder, slowly grinding its way through the stone. This was not a frantic activity, but a slow, deliberate ritual. Each rotation of the drill was a repetition, a mantra in motion, clearing the mind of everything but the task at hand. The goal was not just the finished bead, but the state of mind achieved in its creation, a tranquil, flowing concentration where time itself seemed to soften and stretch. Similarly, the potter painting a large storage jar entered a different kind of focused zone. Sitting cross-legged before the leather-hard clay, a fine brush made from animal hair in hand, the painter would dip into a small pot of black slip. The design was not sketched out beforehand, it was held in the mind's eye, a pattern passed down through generations yet allowing for individual expression. The hand had to be steady, the line confident. A single misplaced stroke could disrupt the entire harmony of intersecting circles, peacock feathers, or the endless knot. The rhythm of the painting was a quiet cadence, the dip of the brush, the soft scratch as it met the clay surface, the smooth, flowing motion of the arm. This rhythm created a bubble of intense focus, a mindful practice that pushed aside daily worries and immersed the artist completely in the balance and symmetry of the moment. The peace we sense in these artifacts is not an accident. It is the residue of the maker's own calm and centered presence during their creation. These objects then become more than mere historical evidence. They are tangible echoes of a state of being. When we look at a perfectly drilled carnelian bead in a museum, we are not just seeing a piece of jewelry. We are witnessing 1,000 careful breaths, the unwavering patience of a craftsman who found satisfaction not in haste but in perfection. When we study a pot adorned with an intricate, labyrinthine design, we are seeing the quiet confidence of a painter who trusted their hand and their vision. These artifacts are frozen moments of concentrated calm, each one a silent testament to the profound peace that can be found in dedicated work. They remind us that mindfulness is not necessarily about sitting in silence, but can be achieved through the purposeful engagement of our hands and our full attention. A lesson from the Indus Valley that resonates as strongly today as it did 4,000 years ago. This profound preference for peace is perhaps most eloquently expressed not in their city planning or their infrastructure, but in the very art they left behind. When we examine the thousands of artifacts recovered from the Indus Valley, we are met with a silent but powerful statement about their values, in stark contrast to the artistic traditions of nearly every other contemporary civilization. There is a complete and total absence of glorified violence. Nowhere do we find the grand, triumphal reliefs of Egyptian pharaohs smiting their enemies, or the Assyrian carvings depicting chariots trampling foes and cities put to the torch. There are no monuments celebrating warrior kings, no boastful inscriptions detailing military campaigns, no scenes of prisoners of war being led in chains. Instead, the artistic world of the Indus Valley is populated by an entirely different cast of characters. The most famous images are those found on their small, square seals, carved with exquisite detail into steatite stone. Here we encounter a magnificent unicorn-like creature, a composite beast that is powerful yet serene, often standing before a ritual object in a posture of calm dignity. We see the imposing figure of the humped bull, the zebu, rendered with such a keen observation of its muscular form and patient expression that you can almost feel its strength and placid nature. There are elephants, rhinos, and tigers, all depicted with a naturalistic grace that suggests not a fear of wild nature, but a deep fascination and respect for its power. Beyond the animals, the artistic vocabulary is rich with symbols drawn directly from the natural world that sustained them. The pipal leaf from the sacred fig tree is a recurring motif, its distinct heart shape appearing on pottery, beads, and as a stand-alone symbol. This was not merely a decorative choice. The pipal tree is a symbol of longevity and enlightenment in later Indian traditions, and its presence here hints at a very early reverence for the life force and wisdom inherent in nature. We also see intricate geometric patterns, interlocking circles, labyrinthine spirals, and checkerboards that speak to a love of balance, order, and abstract harmony. These patterns are not chaotic. They are mathematically precise, reflecting the same sense of underlying order that guided the layout of their streets and the construction of their drains. This consistent aesthetic choice reveals a fundamental orientation of their collective consciousness. A society's art is a mirror of its soul, reflecting what it considers beautiful, powerful, and worthy of remembrance. By choosing to depict the harmony of nature, the grace of animals, and the purity of geometric form, the people of the Indus Valley were making a conscious statement about what they valued. They were not a people who found glory in domination or prestige in the subjugation of others. Their identity was tied to their relationship with the environment, their skill in craftsmanship, and their participation in a stable, orderly community. This artistic environment would have surrounded every citizen from birth, shaping their perceptions and their understanding of what constituted a good life. To grow up surrounded by images of serene bulls and sacred leaves, rather than scenes of battle, would inevitably cultivate a different mindset, one where conflict was not the default, and where cooperation and balance were the highest ideals. The art they lived with was a constant, gentle reinforcement of the very peace they so successfully built, a daily reminder that true strength lies not in conquest, but in living in harmony with the world and with one another. This quiet soundscape is a living, breathing entity, a delicate tapestry woven from threads of nature and the soft evidence of a slumbering community. The most constant presence is the wind itself, a gentle traveler moving through the city. It does not howl or rush, but sighs as it passes, finding its voice in the leaves of the pipal trees planted along the avenues. The sound is a soft, papery rustle, a whisper that seems to carry secrets from one end of the city to the other. This breeze also plays a subtle melody as it slips through the narrow ventilation slots in the granary walls, creating a faint, low whistle, almost below the threshold of hearing, like the sound of a distant flute heard in a dream. It is a sound that cleanses the air, carrying away the day's warmth and leaving behind a cool, refreshing stillness. Against this background, the river maintains its deep, foundational hum, a constant bass note that gives the night its resonance. But now, from the residential lanes, another sound emerges, one that grounds this ancient world in a comforting familiarity. It is the distant, soft bark of a dog, not a sound of alarm, but a single, muffled woof as the animal shifts in its sleep, perhaps dreaming of chasing a lizard in the sun-warmed streets. The sound is answered a moment later by a similar bark from a different part of the city, a brief, conversational exchange between the canine guardians of the night. Then, from the roof of a nearby home, you hear the quick, skittering footsteps of a small animal, a mongoose or a squirrel, its tiny claws making a faint scratching sound on the sun-baked clay tiles as it goes about its nocturnal business, a reminder that the city is a shared space. The most captivating sounds, however, are the ones that require you to listen most closely. From the open courtyards comes the faint, rhythmic chirping of crickets, a gentle percussion section hidden in the shadows. And if you are very still, you might hear the soft, almost imperceptible hoot of an owl from a tall tree near the city's edge, a sound that is less a call and more a breathy exhalation into the darkness. These are the sounds of a world undisturbed by human noise pollution. There is no underlying mechanical drone, no rumble of engines, no clatter of industry. This purity of auditory experience is something we have largely lost, a silence so deep that the smallest natural sound becomes significant. This soundscape is not empty, it is full of a quiet life, a symphony of subtlety that invites the listener to slow down, to match their own breathing to the patient rhythms of the earth, and to find a profound peace in the gentle, unhurried passage of the night. Now, let your journey drift towards the city's outer edge, where the meticulous geometry of human planning gradually yields to the untamed contours of the natural world. The transition is not abrupt, not a fortified line of fear, but a gentle, permeable border where two different kinds of peace begin to merge. The straight, brick-laid lanes slowly give way to pathways trodden by animal feet, and the clean lines of buildings are replaced by the sprawling, irregular shapes of wild acacia trees and dense, river-fed thickets. The air here changes subtly, losing the faint, clean scent of wood smoke and baked clay and gaining the richer, more complex perfume of damp earth, wild jasmine, and the musky aroma of foliage decaying on the forest floor. It is a place of exchange where the civilization acknowledges its ultimate dependence on the wilderness that surrounds it. From the deep shadows beyond the last cultivated field, a sound suddenly rises, slicing through the night stillness. The high, yipping call of a jackal, answered a moment later by another from a different direction. To a modern ear, this might sound like a warning, a signal of danger lurking at the gates. But for the people sleeping safely in their homes, this was simply another voice in the valley's nocturnal chorus, a sound as natural and expected as the rustling of the leaves. It was not a threat because their security was not based on dominating the wild, but on understanding their place within it. The jackals were scavengers and hunters of small game, part of the intricate balance that kept the rodent population in check and the fields healthier. Their calls were a reminder of the wild order that existed beyond the city's domain, an order that was respected, not conquered. This respectful coexistence is visible in the very way the city meets the land. There are no towering, militaristic walls designed to keep nature out, but rather more practical, lower barriers, likely meant for managing trade flows, defining boundaries, and perhaps offering protection from the occasional flood or large animal. The relationship was one of managed proximity. The farmers who worked the outermost fields would have known the patterns of the wildlife, learning to live alongside them. They understood that the wilderness was not an enemy to be vanquished, but a powerful neighbor with its own rhythms and rules. This perspective fostered a profound ecological wisdom, a recognition that the city's prosperity was inextricably linked to the health of the environment that cradled it. The peace they enjoyed was not an island of isolation, but a harmonious peninsula extending into a wild and vibrant continent. Standing at this threshold, you can feel the two worlds breathing together. The deep, resonant hum of the civilized city, the memory of the great baths lapping water, the silent flow of the drains blends with the lively, untamed symphony of the wild. The crickets chirp more loudly here, and the leaves rustle with the movement of unseen creatures. The jackal's call does not provoke alarm because it exists within a context of overarching stability. It is the sound of the world functioning as it should, a wild counterpart to the ordered sounds of the city. This acceptance reveals the ultimate sophistication of the Indus Valley mindset. They achieved a peace so confident and deeply rooted that it had no need to fear the world beyond its borders. Their civilization was secure enough to allow the wilderness to remain wild, understanding that true harmony encompassed both the neatly laid brick and the untamed call of the jackal under a sky full of indifferent, beautiful stars. As the deepest indigo of the night begins to soften at its edges, a subtle transformation takes hold of the sky. It is not a sudden switch from dark to light, but a slow, seamless blending of colors, as if an unseen artist is adding water to a pot of rich pigment. The velvet black gives way to a profound, cool blue, which then warms at the horizon into bands of soft lavender and the faintest blush of rose. The stars, which moments before blazed with such fierce intensity, now gently recede, their light fading with a quiet dignity, making way for the sun. There is no abruptness to this change, no harsh line between night and day. It is a gradual, gentle awakening, a whispered conversation between the darkness and the light. With this shift in the heavens comes the first music of the morning. It begins with a single, clear note from a bird hidden in the branches of a pipal tree, a tentative question posed to the sleeping world. A moment of silence follows, and then an answer comes from a different tree, a slightly different melody. Soon they are joined by others, until the air is filled with a delicate, cascading chorus of chirps, whistles, and trills. This is not the loud, demanding cacophony of midday birds, but a soft, rehearsed symphony, a natural overture that has been performed at this same hour for millennia. The songs are layered and complex, yet they create a harmonious background that feels inherently peaceful, a soundscape that coaxes the world awake rather than commanding it. Down by the river, the symphony gains another instrument. The fishermen, stirring in their simple huts along the bank, begin their day with the same quiet rhythm that defined their night. There is no shouted conversation, only the soft, shuffling sound of feet on damp earth and the gentle scrape of a boat being pushed fully into the water. The quiet slap of oars being fitted into their locks echoes softly across the now pewter-colored surface of the Indus. These are the first purposeful movements of the new day, but they are executed with a calm efficiency that avoids any sense of rush or anxiety. It is the sound of work that is in harmony with the time of day, a slow and steady beginning. Back in the city, the change is felt more than heard. The profound, heavy silence of the night begins to lift, replaced by a quality of quiet that is expectant, alive with potential. The air itself seems to brighten, the moonlight's silver wash yielding to a cool, gray luminescence that reveals every brick and lane in sharpening detail. From within the homes, the sounds of waking are equally gentle. The soft murmur of a mother soothing a child, the faint clatter of a cooking pot being lifted from a shelf, the low, stretching groan of a man rising from his rope bed. These are the intimate sounds of a community easing into consciousness. There are no alarms, no raised voices, only the natural, unforced rhythms of life resuming. This slow transition is the ultimate expression of the Indus Valley's peace. It is a rhythm dictated by the cosmos itself, not by the frantic demands of a clock. The entire city and the civilization it represents operates on this natural timetable. The farmers in the fields will begin their work as the sun's rays touch the stalks of wheat. The artisans in their workshops will light their fires when the light is strong enough to see their delicate work. The pace of life is attuned to the sun's journey, a pace that allows for mindfulness and prevents the stress that comes from artificial urgency. To awaken in this way is to feel integrated into a larger, benevolent order, to understand that you are a part of a cycle that is both reliable and gentle. The dawn does not demand, it invites, and in the accepting of that invitation, in the gradual opening of one's eyes to a world awakening in concert, lies a profound and ancient serenity, the very essence of peace. And so, the city begins to breathe. The first true sign is not a sound but a scent carried on the cool, pre-dawn air that drifts from the courtyards and into the quiet lane. It is the rich, wholesome aroma of bread baking, a fragrance that has signaled the start of a new day for countless generations. This is not the sharp smell of a modern electric oven, but the deep, earthy perfume of dough meeting the intense, radiant heat of a tandoor, a cylindrical clay oven sunk into the ground. The scent is warm and yeasty, with a faint, smoky undertone from the embers of the fire below, a promise of nourishment and the simple, profound comfort of a shared meal. From within the homes, the silence of the night is slowly replaced by the gentle sounds of a community easing into its daily rhythms. You hear the soft, rhythmic slap of hands shaping dough into flat discs, a practiced motion that is both a chore and a kind of meditation. This is followed by the quiet, sizzling whisper of the dough being skillfully slapped against the tandoor's hot inner wall, where it will bake in minutes into a soft, puffed flatbread. There are no loud commands or frantic shouts, only the low murmur of morning conversations between family members, their voices hushed and warm with sleep. A child's soft laugh rings out, clear and brief, before being absorbed back into the calm atmosphere. These are the sounds of purpose, not pressure, a slow and steady awakening that feels as natural as the sunrise itself. This measured pace is the heartbeat of the Indus Valley sustainability. There is no concept of a frantic rush, no scramble to beat a clock. The rhythm of life here is dictated by the sun's journey across the sky and the longer, grander turning of the seasons. The farmer knows that the wheat cannot be hurried, it will ripen in its own time. The potter understands that a vessel must dry slowly and evenly before it can be fired, or it will crack. This deeply ingrained patience, this synchronization with natural cycles, creates a bulwark against the stress and anxiety that come from artificial deadlines and the constant push for more, faster, now. It is a pace that acknowledges human limits and the value of taking the time required to do things well. Look at the potter, now sitting cross-legged in his workshop as the first golden light of dawn filters through the doorway. He does not grab a lump of clay and begin frantically spinning his wheel. Instead, he first carefully inspects the pots that dried overnight, running his hands over their surfaces to feel for any hidden cracks or weaknesses. He selects his clay with deliberation, wedging it slowly to remove air bubbles, a process that cannot be rushed. His movements are economical and fluid, each one serving a purpose. This is not laziness, it is a deep, focused efficiency that conserves energy and ensures a quality result. It is the kind of sustainable work ethic that prevents burnout, allowing a craft to be practiced with joy and mastery for an entire lifetime. This attunement to natural time creates a different relationship with work itself. For the beadmaker sorting through her tiny carnelian stones, the goal is not to drill 100 beads by noon, but to perfectly complete a single exquisite bead. The satisfaction comes from the process, from the feel of the stone yielding to the drill, from the emergence of a beautiful object through skill and patience. There is no external pressure to produce at an unsustainable rate because the economy is built on the value of quality and the stability of long-term trade relationships, not on rapid, disposable consumption. This approach infuses daily labor with a sense of dignity and mindfulness, transforming it from a means to an end into a meaningful part of a well-lived life. As the sun finally crests the horizon, flooding the straight avenues with a soft, golden light, the city is fully, gently awake. People emerge from their homes not with hurried steps but with a calm purpose. A woman carrying a water pot on her head walks with a graceful, balanced stride toward the public well. A man leads a pair of oxen yoked to a cart, their hooves making a soft, clopping sound on the brick pavement. There are greetings called between neighbors, but they are warm and unhurried. The entire scene feels like a complex organism coming to life, each part moving in harmony with the whole, all guided by the reliable, unhurried rhythm of the sun, a rhythm that has nurtured this peaceful existence for centuries. From this high vantage point, the city unfolds below like an intricate map drawn in brick and shadow. The last vestiges of night cling to the narrowest lanes, while the rising sun begins to paint the rooftops in strokes of pale gold and rose. Thin, graceful columns of smoke now rise from dozens of courtyards, not as dark, choking plumes, but as soft, gray ribbons that curl lazily upward before dissolving into the brightening blue of the sky. They are the breath of the waking city, each one a signal of a family gathering for their morning meal, a simple, shared ritual that anchors the day in comfort and community. The air, still cool and fresh from the night, carries the distant, comforting scent of baking bread, a fragrance that feels like a promise of another day of stability and sufficiency. Your eyes are drawn to the center of it all, where the great bath lies in repose. The first direct rays of the sun strike its water, transforming the dark, celestial mirror of the night into a sheet of liquid fire. The surface shimmers with a blinding, golden light, as if the tank were filled not with water, but with molten precious metal. For a moment, it seems to hold the sun itself captive, a basin of pure, captured dawn. The colonnades surrounding it cast long, sharp shadows that shrink slowly with the sun's ascent, their geometric precision a stark contrast to the organic, waking life of the city. Even as the light grows stronger, the sacred hush of the place persists. You can imagine a few early rising figures moving there with quiet purpose, perhaps priests or caretakers, beginning their day not with loud proclamations, but with the same reverent silence that has characterized this space for centuries. It is a daily reaffirmation of the city's core values, a spiritual cleansing with the new light. And now the streets themselves begin to pulse with a gentle, unhurried energy. The wide, straight avenues, so empty and monumental under the moonlight, are now filling with the quiet bustle of daily life. But this is not the frantic scramble of a modern city rush hour. There is a palpable slowness to the movements, a grace in the interactions. A woman with a water pot balanced effortlessly on her head walks with a smooth, rhythmic gait toward a public well, her sari leaving a trail of color against the pale bricks. A farmer, already returned from his fields, guides a pair of powerful oxen and a cart laden with fresh produce toward the market square, the wooden wheels making a soft, rhythmic rumble that is the sound of prosperity itself. Children, refreshed from a full night's sleep, chase each other in and out of the lanes, their laughter echoing off the high walls, a sound of pure, unburdened joy. What is most striking as you observe the faces of these people is the expression they carry. It is not the blankness of fatigue or the anxious tension of uncertainty. There is a calm assurance in their demeanor, a quiet confidence that speaks volumes about the society they inhabit. They move with the unspoken knowledge that the system works. They trust that the granaries are full, that the water in the drains will flow cleanly, that their neighbors are partners in a shared enterprise. This is the true legacy of the Indus Valley, a peace that was not merely the absence of conflict, but the active presence of societal trust. It was a peace built over generations, brick by brick, canal by canal, and sealed with the quiet understanding that their collective well-being was the highest achievement to which they could aspire. This civilization chose to invest its genius not in monuments to singular power, but in the dignified, everyday peace of its people, a choice that resonates across the millennia as a quiet, powerful testament to a different way of being human. And now, as our sleep story comes to a close, carry this image of the peaceful Indus Valley with you into your dreams. Let the sense of order, the profound harmony, and the gentle, sun-guided rhythms of that ancient world settle over your own mind. Feel the sturdy, cool brick beneath your feet, hear the soft, distant trickle of water in the covered drains, and breathe in the clean night air scented with river silt and baking bread. This was a civilization that found its strength not in noise and conquest, but in quiet cooperation and a deep respect for the earth. Their peace is a gift they left behind, not in gold or grand monuments, but in the very blueprint of a life lived in balance. Let the weight of this history, the quietest civilization, become a gentle, heavy blanket of calm upon you. Release the tensions of your own day, just as the people of Mohenjo-daro released their worries each evening, secure in the knowledge that their community would provide and the sun would rise on another day of purposeful work. Your breathing can slow to match the patient lapping of water against the steps of the great bath. Your thoughts can soften like the fading stars in the dawn sky. There is no need to hold on to anything now. Allow the straight, orderly streets of that ancient city to guide your mind into a state of effortless serenity, where every worry has its own proper place and every concern is channeled smoothly away. Drift away on the same river that carried their boats, under the same moon that watched over their sleep. Let the mystery of their undeciphered script become the stuff of your own dreams, a language of pure tranquility that needs no translation. Breathe slowly, and as you exhale, release the modern world with all its haste and noise. Inhale the deep, abiding peace of a people who mastered the art of living together, a peace so complete it has echoed across 4,000 years to find you here tonight. Good night.